think we're good. Welcome. Hi.
Hello.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. We're here again. Yay.
We are indeed. Happy very hot Sunday, I think.
Yes.
For
All right.
us.
Yes, for us. We were just talking before the stream started. I'm in San Francisco and nobody here has air conditioning because it's never really that hot. Yeah. Yesterday and Friday, it got to 100 degrees in San Francisco, which everyone here is like, what's happening?
This is not what it's supposed to be.
Not real.
Yeah. That sucks. Yeah, it's been warm for us, but not too bad. I was saying we managed to actually sneak out to the beach this morning before it got too busy and too hot, so that was really nice. And then got home and just got back into my easy Sunday groove. So yes, indeed. Yes. Super excited to talk about these. I'll just do a quick intro. So if you're joining us for the first time, this is our Star Trek Sunday brunch. We started this because my good friend Samantha had not seen Star Trek as of a couple years ago. And so watching these for the first time, making our way through the series. And right now we are in Deep Space Nine. So we are going to be talking about some episodes from the first season. And we are, oh my God, peace, Demish. Survive, please. Yeah, last transmission. So we're going to be talking about the episodes Battle Lines, The Storyteller, Progress, If Wishes Were Horses, The Forsaken, and Dramatis Personae. And once I got through Dramatis Personae, I was like, oh, I really wish we'd tacked on the last two, because we're like 2 away from the end of the first season.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And they're really good, but
that was quick.
Yeah, I know. I suspect it's probably better that we didn't, because we could talk a lot about the next 2 episodes. So we'll save that for next week. And I will not be reprising my rendition of Ala Moraine this week. So yeah, I guess we can jump into the first one. These are all a pretty good set, actually.
It was a pretty good set. Yeah, really interesting episodes. Memorable, like you said. The first one, so Battle Lines. So it's Kai Opaka, the lady with the hat. But when they first introduced it, I thought they said Ocampa.
Yeah, I accidentally say Ocampa all the time. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Absolutely. So this is not Cass's species.
Right. Took me a second.
Yeah.
I had to rewind it. It's like, did they just say okay? No.
Awesome.
But this was an interesting episode for getting more insight into Bajoran religion and the spiritual nature of the Bajoran culture. Because for me, I think I hear the word religion and I think, multiple different religions, many sects, and different belief systems. And this seemed to indicate that it's more like a cultural, spiritual way of life as opposed to a specific religion. And I say that because Kira was really attached to Kai Opaka and what she represented, it seemed like, and was really distraught when she died but didn't.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting. Like, Kira doesn't seem to me to be a religious type of person,
at least what you've seen of her so far.
Yeah. What I've seen of her so far, exactly. Or even like a spiritual person. So her connection to that made it seem like a cultural thing. Like if Opaka died, part of the Bajoran culture would die in a way. That's what I took away from it. Just not knowing anything that's coming.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. I think they do a good job because this is where Opaka wants to go through the wormhole. So they take her through.
Yes.
And then they find like this transmission, they crash, they go to this planet and she dies. And yeah, like you see that mourning, you see that it's a tragedy for Kira. That we hadn't really seen much before. So I like that. I thought that was pretty good. Yeah, A. Harvey. Kesopaka.
Right.
Kesocampa. Yeah.
It's like a tongue twister. You can
Really.
never say the right one.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and I think in like again as an isolated, so then she gets resurrected, and they oh, Aaron, I don't know what blooper that is. I don't remember.
Really want to see that. I love bloopers.
Throw that. Yeah, I'll check that out. Hey, Adam.
I probably can't watch it yet though if it's on a reel because it's going to be too many spoilers.
This is true. I'll screen it first.
There you go.
But yeah, it's really interesting to learn more about the religion too. That I think the next couple episodes we get, this set was a whole kind of fire hose of the Bajoran religion and the culture and everything. You also sent me a hilarious text when you were watching this. So when they land on the planet and they meet the two species, the two factions, the Edis and the Noel Ennis, Jonathan Banks, who plays the leader of the main one that they're with, who also played Ben Wyatt's dad in Parks and Rec. So that's the one that always sticks with me.
Oh.
Yeah. But this
awesome.
one, what did you text me, Samantha?
I took a screenshot of when he was on screen, and I said, "Why is Tommy Wiseau here?"
That's so
funny. And he kind of acted like him, like the mannerisms were there too. Like he didn't just look like him. It was like. So last week we had the Michael Keaton School of Acting. This week we had the Tommy Wiseau School of Acting.
That was so funny. Yeah, I could not unsee that once you said that to me. That was so funny. The other aspect that I did really like in this episode was this idea that they come and Kaiopaka kind of channels the spiritual leader side of her, and she starts to like bring these people together and be like, can't you work out past your differences? And then they find out they can't. They revert back. It was like, you're so close.
Yeah, but I liked that I saw in your notes too, this was an interesting, unique kind of ending. Like she stays there. That's her calling that she chooses to pursue. And she wanted to go through the wormhole she knew something was calling her there, and this was it. And I really liked her character in that regard. But the thing was, like, was it they couldn't die?
Yeah.
Because of something in
they had so it basically that if I remember correctly, they the planet has made them so they don't die, but they also can't survive off of it. Like basically once they've kind of been resurrected and stuff, and that's where I think like Kaiopaka's approach was like, I should have died. I did die. So this is where I'm meant to be. And it's kind of interesting. I'm not a religious person, but I like the approach that Kaiopaka takes. And I kind of, after rewatching this, I kind of wish we had seen her more in Deep Space Nine,
Yeah, it's me too. Like, it's disappointing that she doesn't come back, it sounds like. And she was an interesting character, and I'm not a religious person either, but I connected to her quite a bit in this episode.
That's awesome. And DS9 fans said too, like the Kai, as you'll find out if you haven't already, but the role of the Kai, it's almost like a Pope type role,
Yeah, that's what it started to seem like.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I love DS9. Sure. Oh my god. And we haven't even met the best and the worst. I'm excited. Okay. So anyway.
Infectious.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this one?
Not really.
Yeah, it's a good one. And it's a good point too. Like Kira, I think, is always in that cycle of trying to find balance in her life. It's all about that balance, and that the religion and her culture kind of affords that. She turns to that when she's kind of when she's lost. And it's really interesting. But so the next episode is the Storyteller. Is that right? Yes.
Yes.
the Storyteller. So this is, I'll do the intro for this one. So O'Brien basically, O'Brien and Bashir are on this mission. They essentially, this Bajoran village is about to be destroyed, and they go there. Their leader, the Storyteller, is dying, and then basically O'Brien gets appointed as the new Storyteller, and sucks. and then then we also had the Nog, and there's a couple. What was this? This is the one where there's the girl who's like 15, and she's like this leader of one of the factions, and so but she also like spends a lot of time with Jake and Nog and like taps into that kid side of her life, and they try to play a prank on with Odo's regeneration bucket, and it's adorable. There's some great Jake and Nog episodes in this set, so yeah, I love it. But anyway, yeah, so what this was when this one started and they got to the Storyteller, I was like, oh, I like this episode.
It was fun. I mean, I love any O'Brien episode, so to see him like totally out of his element completely was just brilliant, because he sucked so bad. And it's like, just, bad actor, don't know what to do with my hands type thing. Yeah. And I mean, I can't help it. I love Bashir. He's one of my absolute favorite characters, and I loved him and O'Brien together in this episode. Like, their relationship, I'm so excited to see continue to grow. Because it's like they don't have a bromance, but they have a sort of friendship that's sort of starting. I can see, O'Brien like super annoyed by him, doesn't want to do anything with him, but he's O'Brien, so he tries. And yeah, I thought Bashir was great in this episode too, because he supported O'Brien and tried to help him figure out how they're going to solve this issue. And yeah, so they were fun. And then the B plot was great with Nog and Jake
crushing on a girl.
I thought she was interesting too, like, because she clearly she's had to be an adult and act like an adult and be around adults. It seemed like she doesn't have a lot of kid time, so she took a little bit of that, and really enjoyed being there with them, but also took Nog's advice, not like a 15-year-old, but like a older person who needs to figure out how to make this work. So she was interesting. I liked her a lot.
Yeah, I did too. I think she's well acted. We kind of had this discussion with that the TNG episode where they revert back to kids, and like it's the importance of like tapping into your childhood and not taking life too seriously. And I think this one kind of touches that too, that you feel like she's kind of been immersed in this really serious life, and then hanging out with Jake and Nog and just like playing pranks, kind of, you can see that childhood start to eke through, and like you said, kind of learn from it too. Nog has like legitimate advice, that you've got to find compromise, and there's opportunity in compromise, and it's pretty awesome. It's adorable. Yeah.
So good.
I do always laugh when they fill the bucket with oatmeal and then spill it all over Jake. He's like, oh no!
That was great.
It's so good. So the comment from Adam about the mash of sci-fi being Deep Space Nine, or the sci-fi comfort blanket. Yeah, that works.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, Dr. Ina said, when O'Brien is like, there's always a moment where he's like, can we go home now? I think I'm done.
Yeah, I know. Gosh,
I think that was a moment when he's standing up there, he's like, can I go home now?
Yeah. I'm done. And they're like, you will stay forever. And he's like, no. That's
not okay. And it was nice, like, even just for being, and that's why I think Deep Space Nine, but Star Trek in general does a great job of these small episodic episodes where we meet and get attached to characters and we're invested in it. And this guy who was the Storyteller's apprentice, and you could see that he felt that he was the heir apparent of the Storyteller, and to see him struggle with that, and then to see that, you know, O'Brien's realization that, well, okay, but I want out, but also this guy, like, he's got stuff to learn, but he'll be okay.
Yeah, and he had done it like once and completely failed or something.
Yeah.
So they pushed him off the pedestal, and then the guy. So was it like, I couldn't remember if this was real or not. So the dying guy like choose O'Brien as a test for his son or something.
I think that was the implication. I don't think they ever kind of explicitly said it, but just, I think I guess the way I viewed it is that he saw that as nothing to lose. O'Brien's a good guy. Obviously, he's not going to stick around. So this is an opportunity for someone to stand up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's good. I really like this one.
Good episode.
Yeah, it's really, I always just, as soon as you sort of see that Storyteller, I'm like, oh yeah, this episode. This is a good one. So I really love it. Any other thoughts? I'm glad you really like O'Brien and Bashir here, because it's just gonna grow. I mean, I'm sure you've seen GIFs and people, but yeah, the O'Brien Bashir relationship is fabulous. So.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear you say that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's incredibly satisfying, and just as from a rewatch standpoint, it's always nice to see the beginning of it. You know, to go back here and be like, aw. It's the beginning.
Yay. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, I had that same thought, Rogue. Why do they stay there? Like, can they just leave?
This seems like a nightmare town.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got this, like, nightmare, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, damn it. I just lost it. The luck dragon from, Never-Ending Story. It's like his evil twin coming through the sky.
Right. That's awesome. That's so funny. Cool. Yeah, no, I like this one. Falcor.
Falcor, that's the one. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent.
I believe I forgot.
I love it. What did the Cardassians think about this town during the occupation? That's a good point. Yeah. All right, so the next episode we're going to talk about is Progress. I don't know if you want to give the intro on this one.
Progress. Oh, this is Kira and the farmer. Yeah. And then Jake and Nog on the B plot. With their Nog trying to be a little Ferengi and make deals, and Jake is the one that's like all the best at it.
It's so good.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I liked this episode. I actually really liked this as a Kira episode. Seeing her with the farmer was a really, it was kind of a fun, more insight into, her and how she is dealing with this current situation. And I liked that it was like, she's this young, hot-headed, couldn't understand why he couldn't just move and leave his home, and it'll be this different but the same. You just have to leave. And he's sort of this older man who's slow, and we're gonna have a 3-hour meal to enjoy each other's company, and like and I'm gonna finish my pizza oven. And she's just like, oh, we have to go. So it was an interesting, they're playing off each other was really quite interesting. And I found him, I liked his character and how he responded to her.
Yeah, for sure. And I like, a couple of people mentioned the actor here, Brian Keith from The Parent Trap. As soon as you said that, I was like, Unexpected Bagel, I was like, that's where I know him from. That was it. Yeah.
I kept thinking that he looked too much like Anthony Hopkins. I was like, yeah.
I feel like this is in terms of the A story with the farmer and all that, and Kira, I feel Kira's energy there, where I'm like, just, we have to go. We have to go. We don't have time. It's nice. I like you, but we have to go. So in that sense, this episode kind of stresses me out, but in the way that it's just done really well, that I feel it. And and it's really good. So I like it a lot. And physics, that's a good point about sort of this mirror of Kira, for her to literally reflect on, like, what she has been, you know, that they were able to kind of share those stories of the occupation and the rebellion and all of that, but now how differently they have gone. So they kind of have this shared past, but then have done this, and then, but he's still kind of a mentor, and it's just really interesting. So, yeah. And Dr. Ina too, like the situation is unfair, and I think this is kind of a storyline that we've seen a few times before, where it's just like, yeah, this sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Can we talk about self-sealing stem bolts? First try.
Self-sealing stem bolts.
First try. Suck it. I can never
that
get
was
that.
Amazing.
Oh, I just have to slow it down by, I have to go to 80% speed to be able to get through that on one try.
Right.
I will not do that again. As soon as the yamuk sauce is mentioned, this is just me losing my brain. I'm like, yeah, this is yamuk sauce and self-sealing stem bolts, and I love it. This is a great Nog episode.
It's fantastic, and I just love that, Nog, he's trying to be a good little Ferengi, and make these deals, and they end up with no money, like a million different self-sealing stem bolts and sauce and like land. Then they get the land, and at the end, Quark's like realization moment is so great.
Yeah, the Najee consortium that they're all looking for. It's like, that's the kids sitting over there.
Yeah, they're just, that's amazing.
I love it so much. So I would like, in terms of, top episodes to watch, to either like binge through or shortcut your way through Deep Space Nine, or to learn about characters, like this is up there in terms of like,
Definitely.
we get Kira, we get Nog, we get just great it's just amazing. I love it.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, Bad Panda Bear, that's normally self-sealing stem bolts. And I remember Aaron always would joke about that. That was just a classic. Yeah, impossible to say.
Right.
And I love, too, that, like, O'Brien's sort of fishing around with it, and he's like, what did they do? I'm like, I don't know. Like,
I thought you'd know.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't need these.
It's so great. And yeah, just the fact that, it just comes around where they own this land, and Nog is basically like super mad at Jake. They shouldn't have made that deal. And then they're like, oh, there's this one holdout company who owns this bit of land that we need to buy. The Najee Consortium.
Oh, it's brilliant. I love it so much.
Yeah, such a good one. So yeah, any sort of final thoughts on this one? This is just a really good episode.
It is. I thought that Cisco and Kira had some nice moments in this episode. It's, towards the end, she's obviously really frustrated, but also starting to see his side, and starting to see the farmer's side. And Cisco has, like, it's just, he has a moment where he says, I'm talking to you as a friend, and we need to figure this out, but he's sympathetic to everything that she's going through. And I thought they had some really interesting moments.
That's a good point. That's a good moment of growth for their relationship, because it's been very professional, but almost hostile, like a tolerant type relationship where they have to work together. They'll make it work. They're both good at doing their jobs, but yeah, this is the first time that he's like, look, we're friends. I get it. This sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
So I liked the few scenes they had together really were nice growth moments for their relationship.
Awesome. Okay, so the next one was If Wishes Were Horses.
I loved this episode.
Yeah, it's a hot mess of an episode, and I was watching this a couple nights ago while my partner was playing video games, and he's like half listening to the thing, and then as soon as Rumpelstiltskin was mentioned, he was like, oh my god, this episode.
Nope.
Yep. This is so essentially this is just a classic Star Trek premise that their minds, their manifestation, their imaginations, all of this, it seems maybe is it a holodeck problem? All of this just starts manifesting around the ship. Everyone's winning at Quarks. All the women are like coming out of the holosuite programs. This is also where we learn, if we didn't infer already, they explicitly say what the holosuites are for.
Right.
Because Jake walks out of the holosuite with his like bat and mitt, and Odo's like, what is the kid doing in there? It's like, it's just a baseball program. It's just a baseball program.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, I loved this episode. I mean, it was just, you're right, it's a hot mess, but at the same time, it's like, just, I love seeing these sorts of Star Trek episodes. And everybody's imagination running wild, and I loved Odo. Odo in this episode was so good. With the emus, like, what was that about?
It's like, I'm a little distracted down here on the promenade.
And then his imagination with Quark in the cell, and he's like, no imagination.
Exactly. It was so great. And I still love, probably one of my favorite moments from this episode is when Quark is walking out with the women and he's like, hey, hot stuff, and Odo's like, you do realize that everyone's winning. And you hear this, and Quark like immediately drops everything. He's like, no, stop thinking, double cross, no. This is so good.
And that made me think, it was funny that Quark's imagination went straight to like the women and not to just his bar with everybody losing all the time. But then I realized that's kind of reality for Quark. Like he makes people lose, so that wouldn't be imagination anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny. And yes, thank you, Rouge. We are going to talk about Dax and Bashir here as well, because we, Bashir's just being himself. And I do really like I appreciate these discussions deeply, because the fact that you really like Bashir, and the fact that, you made the really astute observation that, like, Dax has been around. Jadzia has been around, and she's just like, aw. And that really comes across in this episode, where they're like, oh, how's our good doctor doing? And she's like, he's young.
Yes. Yeah. So Bashir in this episode, again, like, I see him as youthful, like you say, and not that that's excusing anything. Like, it's not a boys will be boys argument. But he's the fact that he is fantasizing here about Dax and his imagination. She responds to that in an interesting way, and she's like, we all have fantasies that should not be for anybody's viewing pleasure other than your own, and it's natural. And the fact that when she's all there draping herself over him, like, he's like, kind of like, this is not right anymore. Like, go away. He feels, uncomfortable with that. And I thought he had some interesting moments of, not necessarily enormous growth or anything, but just like those moments of, he could have been like, oh, I've got Dax with me right now, and I'm just going to appreciate this, and to hell with what everyone else sees, because I'm a smarmy, wretch.
Right.
But he doesn't. He's uncomfortable with it. And Dax pokes him a little and was like, so you want me to be submissive, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And he's caught in that, he's caught, and he has to, like, he flounders with that. And anyway, I guess with Bashir, it might be the actor too, like, I just don't get super creepy, smarmy vibes off him. I get somebody who's just growing up,
yeah,
in a way.
I do think, like, and thank you for the follow, Rexlex. I think that people are pointing out in here too that we do get some it's a lot of layers, and I think that this is a big growth for Bashir, that it is, as pointed out in the chat, this is what you dream of versus the reality, and that that he realizes that his interest is super surface level, that it's not the real Jadzia. This idea that he is embarrassed by it, he's turned off by it, and I do like that Jadzia's reaction is brilliant. It could be very offended, it could be very mean, she could be awful to him about it, but she's very much just like, hey, we all have our fantasies, as you said, we all have our fantasies that should never be made public, and I feel bad for you that it is. Like, it's embarrassing for you. And I empathize with that. And that's just really kind of sweet. Good character.
I think, she, again, well, her age, Dax's age comes into it, because isn't this the one where she says, I was a young man once?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was a young man once, but I get it. Yeah. There's no hard feelings here. Yeah, it's really interesting, and it shows too that and I think we'll see. I don't think this is spoiling anything, but I think you'll see that from this episode, the relationship does change. That this is where he does back off, and he's just like, yeah, no, it's not what I want in my head is not the reality, and
right, exactly. And yeah, so everyone, I thought moving on from that, the payoff of this episode, that it was Dax's imagination that made the whole thing happen.
Yeah.
Like, that was like a whole other layer that I was not expecting to come out of this this episode.
All the disaster that's going on and everything.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It was sort of like it was all a dream type.
Yeah. And
thing.
I really like that. I think that a lot of people can sort of empathize with that, where it's like, is this all in my head? And I think especially anyone, like myself, who deals with anxiety or panic attacks or anything like that, trying to get out of that is really, really hard. And that's where you realize where they're like, okay, we're manifesting it, but the station's broken. Like, things are happening. I can't get out of this. And then just being like, no, it's not real. It's not real. Like,
yeah, exactly.
If you can calm down, it will go away. And yeah.
And Cisco's story was interesting. I think Dr. Einage talked about that. He conjured up the baseball player.
Yeah.
Which, was kind of there. That was sort of sweet to see them together. And it's just, Cisco would have loved to. It was almost like Field of Dreams. Like, Cisco would have loved to stay and talk with him.
Yeah.
Forever and ever and ever.
For sure. Yeah, it's really good. And the baseball thing obviously is that's just intrinsic to his personality, and so those sort of stories will come back as well. And then Rouge just beat me to it, but this is the episode with Rumpelstiltskin. And as Domestic mentioned, this is where we get to see Molly O'Brien get some acting, some lines.
He's so sweet.
So cute.
I love when she runs out at the beginning of the episode. She runs out, she says, Daddy, Rumpelstiltskin's in my room. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, and I do love, probably my favorite from the Rumpelstiltskin plot is, and I mean, it was fine for being that sort of goofy, over the top ridiculousness. Like, it's not painful to watch. It's just kind of goofy. But I do like when O'Brien first comes in there and he's just like, He's like, and Rumpelstiltskin. And he's like, you didn't really think that I would just break into half when you said my name, did you? And he's like, no.
Darn it.
Yeah. And we did, and we got Buck Bokai, our Star Trek, our 21st century baseball player who should be killing it right now, apparently. Our early 21st century baseball star. Yep.
Yeah.
Really good. I love it. Yeah, this is a fun episode, and I think for being a really goofy sort of holodeck imagination, what's reality type episode, there's some serious character growth. That's good. Yeah, it's awesome. So, good times. Any other thoughts on this?
Let's see.
Just going through our notes. Yeah, I think we
think
covered
so.
it. Yeah.
I think we both agreed that this is not the Rumpelstiltskin we signed up for.
Thank you, Once Upon a Time.
Thank you.
I love it.
With that.
On that note.
That's going to be my goal. I'm going to insert at least one Once Upon a Time reference in every single Star Trek Sunday.
I love it. That's amazing. I'm sure this one was a freebie.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I like that. That's fabulous. Okay, so next episode we had The Forsaken. I love this episode. So this is the ambassadors, the troublemaking ambassadors show up. Julian is given babysitting duty, and they're difficult in their own right.
Man. Julian.
O'Brien is losing his brain with the computer, that it's going off and doing its own thing, and he's blaming Cardassian crap technology, and Odo and Loxana in the elevator. I mean,
Loxana, I just figured that she made the elevator break or something, like, but also Odo, really? I don't. Which made me think, like, she's kind of like a baby duck, that the first thing it sees is its mother, and for her, like, the first thing she sees in a new environment is her new conquest. That's the only explanation I can come up with why Odo. Quark would have been better.
Oh my god, that is the best explanation of Loxana Troy I've ever heard. And welcome, G4C. We have our live Star Trek podcast on Sunday mornings. Yeah, I love, I mean, we've established this before. We had that I will own it, that I love Loxana Troy. And of course, I love the fact that she shows up in Deep Space Nine. That she's removed from Deanna Troi, that it's not a mother-daughter thing. It's just her being her quirky, weird self. And regardless of why. But I think she explicitly says, too, when Odo's like, she's harassing the crap out of him in the elevator, but the fact that, she's like, I like a challenge. I like a brooding, sad, quiet man. I'm like, yeah, I get it.
I mean, I get it, but
I love it. I think she's amazing. But what I deeply appreciate here is the fact that we get the vulnerability. We get Odo's character development to show. Oh, thank you, 16-bit Eric. Yay. And G4C, thanks for the follow. We're about to have a lot of people come in while I'm about to wax poetic about my love for Loxana Troy.
Excellent. Let's do it. Go for it.
But yes, I love so we get to see Odo's vulnerability, which we hadn't really seen before, right? That he's incredibly self-conscious of his shape-shifting, that he wants it to be a private thing. He's worked so hard to appear human. And not only that, I mean, I kind of get the impression from this that he's kind of flattered by, like, deep down. Annoyance is first. But peel back the annoyance. He's flattered that Loxana Troy finds him attractive. And in that situation, the worst case scenario is that she has to see him in his liquid form.
Yeah.
And she's so... I just love that moment. All of their interactions are great, because seeing Odo annoyed is peak Deep Space Nine. Seeing Loxana Troy annoy people is peak Star Trek. Right. And so, and thanks for the follows, Tonks for Life and the Laugh and Roses. And so to bring them together, but then for her, you know, my favorite Loxana episodes are when we get to see her vulnerability. You know, that episode where she falls in love and the guy has to die and everything. But when she takes her wig off and she's like, no one has seen me like this. And no one's seen you like this. Let me be here for you.
That was a brilliant moment, and I really don't not like Loxana, but just when I see her, I have to like go, oh, okay, energy dialing up, and that wig moment was a brilliant moment for her character, and it's like she tends to go through the same type of what's the word I'm looking for? I feel like a lot of her episodes seem to take the same course, where she's like super flirty and I had packed a picnic for us even though you didn't ask me to, and of course I told Quark, and like, you know, just super confident and like, yeah, this is what we're doing, and flirtatious and whatever. And then she hits a moment where she needs to dial back, or she needs to adapt to she finally needs to adapt a little bit to who the other person is. And then she has these great moments, like with, you know, revealing herself to Odo. And yeah, I mean, this was a fantastic Loxana episode.
Thank you. I needed that validation.
Yes.
I love it. And I do
agree.
Yeah, I really want to thank 16-Bit Eric for the gifts. We have some new subscribers, and Scarrick Jazz Hands. And the followers as well, Aseth and DJ Phoenix. I appreciate the follows as well. So, and Dr. Ina, I think that's why I love Loxana so much, that she is so authentically herself without apologizing. She's incredibly self-aware and doesn't care. She's just like, that dude, baby duck mode, him. I'm gonna get him.
He found my brooch. I will.
Yeah.
I will approach.
Yes. Brilliant. That was fabulous. Well done. I think you won the hour. But I mean, without getting too crass, I get it. You know, she's just like, when I break him, it will be worth it. And and that's her attitude, and I love it. And
yeah.
It's wonderful. So anyway,
there was one of my favorite moments in the elevator was when he was like, I don't want to talk, and so she like sits down for some, I don't know why she sat down, but like there's this moment when she's like 5 minutes have passed and she's like, oh no, I don't think I can. I don't think I can't talk.
That is probably one of my favorite moments where, yeah, I just love it.
Yeah.
It's like, you have to stop talking.
Yeah. It's funny for me because I have the opposite problem. Like, if I don't have to talk, I'm perfectly happy. So it'd be like, if I had to talk, be like, I'm not sure I can.
I fall more on the Loxana side of that, where I cannot abide silence. I'm that kid that raises their hand in the classroom because I can't stand the pregnant silence when the teacher asks a question. So that has held true my entire life. So I get it. And that might be why I love Loxana so much. She has excellent taste in species, aliens, people, whatever. And I get it. It's the authentic self that I love.
Yeah.
So
very admirable.
Exactly. I love it. Awesome. And hi, Tammy Jack. Good morning. Yeah. So last episode in this set, I think.
Yeah. What else happened in that episode?
Oh,
Brian has a pet computer.
Oh Oh yeah, the pet puppy, the computer puppy. This little piece of baby computer code that's breaking everything, and I love it.
Cute. O'Brien was so cute.
He wants to keep it.
Wants to keep it.
Pupper
it's like,
program.
yes, Cisco, can I keep it, sir? I'll take care of it. I'll give it attention.
Make it a little doghouse and put it in, and I love it. Excellent plot. Excellent. I guess Loxana was the B plot, but not in our conversation.
Right. Yeah, it was the computer, and then it was something else too. Oh no, I guess it was just the computer.
Yeah.
Mainly.
Well, and Julian dealing with all the ambassadors too. The very
Right.
difficult. Yeah, that's the C line. But yeah, this idea of this sort of anthropomorphized computer program that we never saw, but is wrecking havoc, and I love it.
And it was so funny because O'Brien is like, listen to this, sir. You know, listen to the computer's voice. And at first I thought he was like, it sounds like Loxana. That's literally where I thought that was going.
That's awesome. That's so funny. That would have been hilarious. But yeah, when he realizes that the computer program is like talking weird, and it's just, but that goes to show, I mean, that's why I think a lot of people love O'Brien, is because he's a really good engineer. He's a very good, chief engineer, and I love it. It's fabulous. Yeah, great episode.
Yeah.
All right, so the last one, Forsaken. Or no, that was what we just talked about. Dramatis Personae.
Yeah.
This one stresses me out. It's an okay episode, but it stresses me out because this is where this telepathic infection gets everyone fighting against each other, where Kira's mutiny, creating a mutiny against Cisco, and I want everyone to be friends, and my friends are fighting, so this episode stresses me out.
This was a stressful episode, yeah, because exactly, like, anything that's like a telepath, like brain changing thing is always a little bit stressful for me. It was, I think, a really well written, well acted episode, because it's like kind of a slow burn for you to realize that something actually is going on, because like, Cisco could have just been kind of bored in that meeting. O'Brien could have just chosen to take a seat in Cisco's office with his permission. Kira could have just been having a bad day and being like, oh, mutiny would be great, like, yeah. And then, like, sort of around halfway through, you're with Odo, who's realizing their personality, something is wrong. Like, everyone's personalities are going haywire.
Yeah.
And he realizes it in, like, when Bashir is talking politics for the first time, which was a really weird, like, I was watching Odo realize something, and I was like, what is he realizing? Like, what is happening? What is he getting?
That's so funny. Yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah. And I think too, the reason it works so well is it's because we're kind of pulling on I guess for me as a hardcore Voyager fan, as well, but it's kind of got that same vibe with like the Maquis, in Voyager, and how they keep going back to that. That's kind of where this was going, where they haven't set up this explicit rivalry that's happening within Deep Space Nine, but you could kind of see the seeds there, and Kira's initial sort of points and her frustration and her kind of nudging everyone. It's like, this could be happening, like.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's the kind of pressure cooker of this really could be happening, was what made this interesting. But also, at first, I thought the whole thing was they had switched personalities, because like Bashir would be like Kira because he's super into what's going on the ship and which side you're going to be on, and then Kira was like really flirtatious with Dax at Quarks, like. Yeah. And I was like, wait, is she Bashir? Like, nice. Is Bashir in her head?
That's interesting.
Yeah, so now I just really want to see that episode.
Right. Yeah, so that was weird. So D Starfire made a really good point that this was a common trope in original series, and I think throughout Star Trek that it just got embedded, but originally because Gene Roddenberry explicitly did not want there to be interpersonal conflicts on the crew. They're working together to have external conflicts. And so in order to create conflict and to keep it interesting, this idea of possession and this idea of, I mean, from what the episode 3 or 4 of TOS, the Naked Now, was it the Naked Now? Naked something. The fencing episode. I mean, that was, you know, brain parasites, infestations, all of those sort of things create this where it's not explicitly there.
That is interesting. Yeah. That's a really interesting thought process to using that type of trope. Yeah, very cool.
Thank you, Unexpected Bagel. I always get them confused. Naked Time was the original series one. Naked Now is TNG. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, and then of course, actually, this is brilliant transition because we did want to spend the last few minutes just quickly sharing our thoughts, mostly Samantha's thoughts on Lower Decks. And this had a classic cure it through the vents at the last second.
Yes.
Cure. And yeah, it's fabulous. So any final thoughts on this one? Dramatis Personae.
See. Not really.
Yeah. It's an okay episode. It's not a bad one. It's not particularly memorable, but
yeah, I do like, you know, we're starting to see when Odo saves the day, it's very reminiscent of the Doctor on Voyager, because he's not affected by certain things.
Right.
So I like that.
Yeah,
that trope as well.
And I think that I think you'll see those comparisons continue as well, just because we have Odo fitting that, again, long-running Star Trek discussion of a species who is trying to be human.
Yeah.
And whether it's a hologram, whether it's an android, whether it's a half Vulcan, or whether it's a shapeshifter, that's what he's striving for. So they do get to use that, where the outsiderness saves the day. And,
right.
Yeah. Good times. Okay, so we are going to briefly talk about Lower Decks, but if anyone is avoiding spoilers or hasn't had a chance to see them, I know we have some people from other countries, so I don't want to exclude them from the conversation, which is why we saved it for the last. Next week's episodes, we are going to be discussing Duet. Really good episode. In the Hands of the Prophets. Very stressful but very good episode, and the introduction of one of the greatest Star Trek characters of all time. Not a good person, but a great character. A love to hate. Yes. And then we're going to be in season 2, so we're going to do the first 4 episodes of season 2 then. So we'll finish season 1 and then do the Homecoming, the Circle, the Siege, and Invasive Procedures, which, so there's we're going to have some deep conversations next week.
Awesome.
So yeah, if anyone's avoiding Lower Deck spoilers, get out now. But I think a lot of people have been itching to share their thoughts with people. Remember, this is a positive space, so we're going to keep it positive. I will mute and banhammer people pretty quickly if there's negativity in the room, because that's not what we're here for. And sorry, Dr. Ina, yes, thank you for being here, and anyone else who has to sign out. So we will carry on. So, you have been watching Lower Decks.
I've seen the first 2 episodes, and I'm so obsessed. I love it so much. This is, I mean, what a great, storyline to talk about the people who are doing the other work, not just the fancy bridge crew work, and just, I mean, such fun characters, such fun storylines. I watched episode 2 last night. I watched episode 1, I think 2 weeks ago, so that one's a little bit fuzzy still, or fuzzy now. But yeah, just such great characters. So I would say the 3 main characters are pretty archetypal, and so they've got a lot bundled in to them. You've got, what's her name? Mariner.
Mariner, yep.
Yeah, Mariner, Brad.
Boimler, yeah.
Boimler. And then I can't remember the name of the green.
Oh, Tendi. The Orion. Yeah, Tendi and Rutherford. Yep.
Yeah. So, I love, who they're representing, and I'm excited to see those archetypes get kind of smoothed out a little bit. And because basically you've got Mariner, who's super experienced and always has a story of, oh yeah, that one time that happened and that time I was in a cave that was sentient.
The sentient cave.
The sentient cave.
Do you know what that means? That's a cave that knows things.
Yeah,
I love that.
And it has all these tons of connections and super confident, doesn't follow the rules, but somehow always comes out on top, like kind of an annoying type of person.
Right.
But also just super cool. And of course you've got Boimler, who's like has his plan laid out, by this year I'm gonna do this, by this year it's gonna be this. He's so straight-laced and very, very bookish. I mean, he's the one who's gonna learn the most, I think. Because right now he's like, if my teacher said it, it must be true,
Right. Very much that character, which I love. Yeah, I love it. And I think Temmie Jack, I agree. I think that like the first episode was, I think intentionally chaotic, where they're trying to like throw a lot of the action in and I mean have exactly what we were just talking about, where that cure through the vents happens at the last second and then everyone's okay. I kind of like that. But it will, obviously, as we start to get to know the characters, and I think it slowed down. The pacing slowed down a little bit in the second episode as well. It was more
centered on the two of them. But I did think it was very frantic, the first episode. I would agree with that. Yeah. It was sort of like, oh God, a lot is happening. And she's just talking and talking and talking.
Yeah.
But I mean, the reveal that her mother is the captain, like that was awesome. And I'm excited. That's going to come to a head very soon, I'm sure. And I'm anxious to see that. And I mean, it's just really fun.
I know they had there's some great deep cuts. Do you feel that had you not seen TNG, you would have appreciated the show?
Probably not as much. No, probably not as much, because I think having seen now fully Voyager and TNG, both of which had a few episodes dedicated to other crewmen, and that's something they throw in every now and then. This would have not meant as much, I think, if I hadn't seen those. And I guess I thought we were on air when we said this last time, but I guess not. But at the end of episode 1 of Lower Decks, and she's like throwing out all of these Star Trek references at the very end when they're walking out of the 10 forward. And I was like, oh, I know that reference. I felt like Captain America. I was like, I understood that reference.
That's awesome. And then she throws in a really deep cut that even he's like, and Gary Mitchell, and he's like, wait, what? Who? It's like, yeah, just look it up.
That one I did not get.
See? And that was brilliant. That was perfect. That was so good. And I did really like, personally, as someone who freaking loves the Klingons, I love the second episode. Just the antics they get up to with it's not that much, we don't see it that much, but just this one Klingon character cracked me up. And they were like, how do I know that name? They were like, that's because they all start with K's and have an apostrophe in them. She's like, that's it.
That's it. And the blast shield.
Yeah.
It goes up and it comes down.
Exactly. It's
so good. It's so good.
And I love that it's a combination. I mean, Jack Quaid is brilliant as Boimler, and I do love the when he just the way they animated him and the way they acted him, where he's in his dress uniform and he's super excited to be on this mission. I just really like that interaction. That was very, very good. Yeah, they had great, even visual deep cuts. They had what looked like a Discovery Klingon in the background at one point. They had some of the animated series aliens just in the background. Oh,
that's awesome. I would have definitely missed most of the visual cues,
I think those things are in there as brilliant and well-deserved fan service to just be like,
right. Easter eggs.
I get you. Yeah. And the Jamaharon bit of like the Ryza, you know, Jamaharon. Just the filthy Ryza nonsense and just great content. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. And I loved, I almost called her Kira. What's her name again? Mariner. At the end of episode 2 with the little Ferengi, she's like, thanks, man. Thanks for, doing that, that bit.
That was so great. Even the whole thing, I was cracking up even when they get to the cave and he's like, Human, come, I've got the thing. And she's like, that's not a Ferengi. And like, he could not be more Ferengi. And it was very much like the, next generation Ferengi of the creepy, gross, swindling Ferengi. And then, to have that twist where he wears a monocle and is taking his wife to Ryza.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Yeah, really good. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts. We'll try to end our episodes with a quick, mostly Samantha doing a quick recap so I don't feel sick to my stomach about violating any NDAs.
Right. We don't want that.
No, we don't want that. Because I'm a rule follower. I get Boimler. And I love too, like, the other thing I do want to mention is I think they did a great job briefly, where we had mentioned in the last episode about this Roddenberry sort of classic method of not creating internal crew conflict. The fact that, like, when Rutherford wants to change his job and everyone's like, you do you, man. Like, go forth. Figure out your dream. I really love that.
That was awesome.
So, yeah, that was really sweet. And setting up Rutherford and Tendi is just a really nice duet. So.
Yeah. They had a great moment at the end of episode 1 when she was like, who wouldn't want to do that? Or like...
Yeah, exactly. Where he was like, and then she just wasn't interested in this, like, level 2 diagnostic failure. Just like, what? So... Anyway, okay. Awesome. Well, thank you. And I saw the follow too, Stripey Poo. Thank you. But yeah, I appreciate everyone hanging out with us. And we'll be back next week with the last 2 episodes of season 1 of Deep Space Nine and the first 4 episodes of season 2. Any final thoughts, Samantha?
Not today. Can't wait to start season 2.
Yes. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all very much. I really appreciate you hanging out, and thank you to 16-Bit Eric for the raid and the subscriptions. And if CosmoQuest is live, then we will send people there. So if you haven't done a raid before, you don't have to do anything. I'm just going to send you to another channel, another great supporters. So say hi to them. Feel free to use your the little bubble channel points at the bottom if you want to steal one of my emojis for a day, and tell them Dr. Aaron says hi, and we will be raiding and running. So thank you all very much for hanging out, and I will set this up real quick. Is CosmoQuest still live? Yes, they are. Awesome. All right. Well, have fun, everyone. Take care of yourselves and each other. Stand up, stretch, grab some water, and until next time. Live long and prosper. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.